I've got kids. Ignore them. You got to picture yourself as a multimillionaire. What?
So right before my son was born, Johnson & Johnson rolled out this longer parental leave for dads, and I think it was 6 or 8 weeks, I can't remember. But there's a lot of stigma about it from a lot of the older engineers, that particularly male engineers, that didn't get that kind of benefit. And I remember being really conflicted about whether or not to take that time off to be with my son or not. I was going to be a first-time dad. And initially I had aligned with my manager that I would take like 1 week off and come back to work because I was working on some really critical robotic surgical stuff. And then I'd take like Fridays off and then use it over the course of a year. And that was my initial vision. And, you know, upon the birth of my son, my wife had a really difficult postpartum, like 43 hours of labor, just like really challenging. And I remember calling my boss and just telling him like, hey, Kevin, I can't come in. Like, I have to use all of it. And I took a full, we'll say 6 weeks to be present as a father. And that was honestly one of the best decisions I made in my entire career. It's something I heavily advocate for because I saw so many of my male colleagues only take a week of that benefit off to be with their child, and then they assumed that they would take weekends off, but then they end up getting a full workload and they never really become present enough to use it with their kids. And that bonding time was so essential, and I did that with my next 2 daughters as well. So there's always going to be an opportunity to ignore your children, or to not be present with your children, or to be busy with work or with other things as an entrepreneur. Like a family frenzy is an LLC, like there's business things associated with it. I'm currently in grad school. I'm working in Japan as a marketing engineering hybrid role. There will always be things that will pull your presence from family. For instance, I travel every other week to visit surgeons. And you have to find a way to be as present as you can if you want to be a whole, well-rounded human. Now that said, you can, bias things based on your passions, right? So like if you look at that individual, like for him, family's not a value. And I wouldn't have the audacity to say he's a poor father, but his definition of successful fatherhood probably looks a little bit different than mine. And that's okay. So there's a lot of things you can hear on the internet that aren't really that well grounded or rooted. And I'd say that TikTok post is one of them. I think it's possible to be a multimillionaire or a billionaire and still be a present father. You don't have to follow this idol, the idol of like overwork in order to be successful. I think you can create schedules that are balanced and sustainable for both you and your family. And that's something I continue to strive for. Like, you only have 8 years to invest in your kids before you shoot them off into the world. My son's 6, I'm already a third of the way done in that initial investment. But anyway, you can sip on that.